Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, general physician. Today we'll be discussing on one of the other part of adrenal gland, that is adrenal medulla. So adrenal medulla is a portion which is inside inner part of adrenal gland, which consists of neuronal tissue. So we'll be talking on that particular aspect: anatomy, physiology, regulation, mechanism of action of what hormones they are secreted, and disorders. So adrenal medulla is the innermost part. Outermost layer is called cortex, innermost layer is called medulla, and this particular is made up of a neuronal tissue. And as it secretes hormones, it is called neuroendocrine hormones, and those are called epinephrine, norepinephrine. And this medulla is stimulated by sympathetic system. So we have got medulla which is secreting hormones, we call it the neurocrine hormones or neuroendocrine hormones, and it is 20% of the adrenal gland, and it is secreting epinephrine, norepinephrine, and it is stimulated by sympathetic stimulation, that is catecholamine released into blood, that is epinephrine and non-epinephrine, and that will travel to distant organs or what we call as the target organs, and there it will produce an effects. So medulla is containing a cell which are called chromaffin cells or pheochrome cells or chromophil cells, and they contain 5 granules. 90% of them are adrenal secreting cells and only 10% are noradrenaline secreting cells. So major are 90% of adrenaline and 10% is noradrenaline secreting cells, and they are stimulated by sympathetic system, and that sympathetic system will be stimulated because of anxiety, stress, exercise, hypoglycemia, hypotension. Even sympathetic system will be stimulated by baroreceptors. Because of fall of blood pressure, baroreceptor will be stimulated, etc. So adrenal medulla, sympathetic fibers that will stimulate and will release epinephrine, norepinephrine, and that epinephrine will be passing into blood and having an effects on a target organs. Now there are few other catecholamines which are also being manufactured, and those particular catecholamines can be dopamine or norepinephrine. So you can have a norepinephrine as an another product, and that is only 10% of the secretions. 10% of the secretion. Ideally, tyrosine is converted into dopa, dopa is converted to dopamine, and that is converted into norepinephrine, and that will have effect on a specific receptor, postsynaptic tissue. So we have got 3 basic hormones: epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. Adrenaline is 90% of the secretion, 10% is noradrenaline. And there are different types of cells we usually call them as a chromaffin cells or chromophil cells, and they are containing different types of granules. So these granules will be released into bloodstream whenever there is a stimulus. So 3 hormones: adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. Noradrenaline, 20% of noradrenaline which exerts biological action, and that is 5 to 6 times more powerful while adrenaline twofold increase during physiological responses. And this hormone will be acting at a distant target organs like heart, respiration, respiratory centers, etc. We'll be dealing with that as we pass this by. So there will be a response we call as a short-term response, long-term response. So this is conversion of tyrosine into adrenaline and action. If you are interested, you can go through. These are all the different enzymes which will be acting, and it will be converting tyrosine into dopa into dopamine, and dopamine will be finally converted to noradrenaline, and noradrenaline will be converted into adrenaline. So that is how the manufacture occurs, and they will combine with a specific receptor and stimulate and produces the action. Adrenaline and noradrenaline will be metabolized by different enzymes, and final product will be vanillyl mandelic acid, short form we call VMA. So 15% of a free adrenaline and free noradrenaline, they are removed through urine. 15% of 50% is conjugated, and it becomes meta-adrenaline and meta-noradrenaline, and that will appear in urine. And 35% will be a metabolic product, which will be vanillyl mandelic acid. Vanillyl mandelic acid, and that is being estimated, and it is one of the most common tests to find out the production of adrenaline and noradrenaline. It is a metabolic product. So secretion of catecholamine, that is adrenaline, noradrenaline and dopamine, that is controlled by neuronal control, or we call nervous control, or physiological control. So whenever there is a stress, it stimulates hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will stimulate sympathetic system, we call as a vasomotor center. In that, sympathetic system will be stimulated, and it will release adrenaline, and you will get a response. So it is called fight and flight response, and this will be the response during any stress, anxiety, mental stress, physical stress, etc. So whenever there is a stress, you get a response. You know very well. This is the best way to show. So regulation of epinephrine, norepinephrine, or we call adrenaline, noradrenaline, will be during stress. Large quantity of catecholamine is secreted. During rest, very small quantity is secreted. So during any fight or flight, you will have increased production of catecholamine, like exposure to cold, hypoglycemia, pain, anxiety, trauma, hypovolemia, hypoglycemia, hypothermia, severe exercise, emotional stress, etc. Or any acute sympathetic stimulation, or during chronic sympathetic stimulation. ACTH also increases the production of catecholamines. Cortisol will also give rise to increased production of catecholamines. And epinephrine itself will be regulating through the negative feedback mechanism. So anxiety, pain, trauma, hypovolemia, hypoxia, hypoglycemia, severe exercise, exposure to extreme temperature, that is particularly hypothermia, etc. will stimulate sympathetic system, and by stimulating sympathetic system, it will release adrenaline and noradrenaline. So pain, anxiety, trauma, etc. will stimulate brain. From hypothalamus, it will stimulate the vasomotor center, that will stimulate sympathetic system, and it will act on an adrenal medulla, releasing epinephrine, and also it will be acting via preganglionic fiber producing norepinephrine, which will act on a target organs, distant target organs. So sympathetic activation of acetylcholine receptor, chromaffin cells will be stimulated and you will have a release of epinephrine, norepinephrine. So this will be the way it will be stimulated: preganglionic neuron, postganglionic neuron, effector organs, and you will get an action. This is autonomic nervous system, that is somatic nervous system. Somatic nervous system will not have any effect on adrenal medulla, but in an autonomic nervous system, sympathetic system will have an effect on adrenal medulla and will release epinephrine, norepinephrine, while parasympathetic system will not have any effect on adrenal medulla. I'll skip over this slide. Same thing what is we have shown before. So autonomic pathway, sympathetic pathway will stimulate and release adrenaline, noradrenaline. Parasympathetic will not have any effect on muscarinic array, will not have any effect on adrenal medulla. And sympathetic directly will stimulate adrenal medulla to release adrenaline, or we call epinephrine. While sympathetic nerves via preganglionic and postganglionic fiber will release noradrenaline. And somatic will not have any effect. It will have effect on what we call as a peripheral muscles or skeletal muscles. So there is a negative feedback mechanism by dopamine and noradrenaline. During sleep, the secretion will decrease. During any fight and flight, you will have increased production and even exposure to cold. So this is the typical diagram what has been shown always. So any stress, any exposure to cold, hypoglycemia, all those stimulus will stimulate hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will stimulate vasomotor center, and that vasomotor center will give rise to a sympathetic stimulation, which via from thoracic ganglia will stimulate adrenal medulla and release what we call as adrenaline as well as noradrenaline. This is called short-term stress response, which will increase your blood glucose level, which will produce peripheral vasoconstriction, so helps in elevation of blood pressure. It will also increase your respiratory rate. It will increase metabolism, so it increases the metabolic rate also, and it increases the blood flow. While acting on antirepituitary, it will release ACTH, and through ACTH, it will act on an adrenal cortex and release mineralocorticoid and glucocorticoid. And this mineralocorticoid and glucocorticoid will have a sustained action and long-term stress response. So it will give rise to what we call as a sodium and water retention by mineralocorticoid activity, and will increase your blood volume and will help in increasing your blood pressure. So that will be one action. While acting via glucocorticoid, it will have increased glucose by neoglucogenesis, conversion of protein and fat into glucose by neoglucogenesis, or we call gluconeogenesis, and it also suppress immune system. So this will be the action which we call as a long-term stress response. And this is that same thing explained in little more detail. What is short-term stress response? What is long-term stress response? So this will be the action of hypothalamus on adrenal gland. It will be acting on adrenal medulla, and long-term response by acting on adrenal cortex via release of ACTH because of any stress. So that is also called as alarm phase. which will have response, which will stimulate hypothalamus. What we have shown you before will release epinephrine from adrenal medulla, and that will mobilize glucose, will change the circulation, will increase the heart rate and respiratory rate, and will also increase BMR. Then long-term response, it is called resistant phase, where there is a release of different materials because of stress, like renin, which will stimulate angiotensin, will release aldosterone. You will have a release of glucagon. You will release of growth hormone. You will have release of glucocorticoids because of ACTH stimulation. So all these are working together, and that is in a long-term metabolic adjustment, or we call long-term response. So release of aldosterone will produce retention of sodium and water, and you will have loss of potassium and H ions. While glucocorticoid and growth hormone will mobilize the energy reserve, that is from lipids. So lipolysis and breakdown of even protein, and that will be converted into neoglucogenesis, and you will have a utilization of glucose by peripheral tissue. Also, glucagon will also help in elevation of blood sugar, and that will be by liver synthesis of glucose. And all these three, growth hormone, glucocorticoids and glucagon, all this will increase your blood glucose level and utilizes the glucose by peripheral tissue. And mineralocorticoid will retain salt and water, sodium and water, thus helping in elevation of blood pressure. So this will provide energy, and this will help in elevation of blood pressure, and this is called long-term effect. So these are all the things, and even that ADH hormone, that will also helps in retention of water and helping to increase the blood volume. So this is that all those effect what we have shown you before. How does the adrenaline and noradrenaline work? And it will be acting on three different type of receptor, alpha, beta and delta receptors. So adrenaline will have a more effect on alpha receptor than noradrenaline. Alpha 2 receptor will be affected by noradrenaline. Beta receptor will be more affected by adrenaline. Beta 2 will be also affected by adrenaline. And these are, so indirectly, adrenaline will be acting on alpha 1, beta 1 and beta 2, while noradrenaline will be acting mainly on alpha 2 receptor, and that will be a major difference between the two. So alpha adrenergic receptor will be acted upon by adrenaline more as compared to noradrenaline. So adrenaline will be more powerful at alpha receptor and also on beta receptor, while noradrenaline will be mainly on alpha 2 receptor and very minor effect on beta receptor. And alpha receptor will produce vasoconstriction, dilatation of pupil, intestine relaxation, intestinal sphincter contraction, pilomotor contraction and bladder sphincter contraction. This will be the effect of mainly what we call as adrenaline, while noradrenaline will be acting on an alpha 2 receptor, and while acting on a beta 2 receptor, it will be giving rise to vasodilatation, tachycardia, force of contraction, intestinal relaxation, uterus relaxation, bronchodilation, increases the calorigenesis, that is increases BMR, glycogenolysis, lipolysis and bladder wall relaxation. So this will be the effect at acting on a beta 2 receptor, beta receptors we call. So while acting on a heart via beta 1 receptor, it increases the force and rate. On blood vessel, vasoconstriction and vasodilatation, depending upon what is more powerful. On a gut, it decreases the motility and increases the sphincter tone. On a liver, it increases glycogenolysis. On adipose tissue, lipolysis. On a skin, increases sweating. And on a bronchial muscles, dilatation, or we call as bronchodilation. So these are the net effect of adrenaline and noradrenaline via acting on alpha and beta receptors. So in general, adrenaline and noradrenaline, it increases oxygen consumption, increases BMR, by which it is calorogenic. On carbohydrate metabolism, it increases the blood glucose level by glycogenolysis in liver and by muscle. It also produces lipolysis. Adrenaline will decrease the blood clotting time. It increases RBC count by contraction of the spleen. So whatever reserve is present in a spleen is poured out into bloodstream. On a heart, it produces tachycardia and it will increase the force of contraction by which it tries to increase the cardiac output. So via beta receptor, it is going to increase the heart rate, that is called chronotropic effect. Force of contraction is called inotropic effect. Excitability of the heart muscle, that is called bathmotropic, and increases the conduction, that is dromotropic. These are the net effect which are being described. Mainly we take into account heart rate and force of contraction. We call chrono and ino. On a blood vessels, norepinephrine will produce vasoconstriction and epinephrine will be powerful vasoconstrictor. So constriction of a blood vessels will take place because of epinephrine as well as norepinephrine. On a blood pressure, because of vasoconstriction and increasing the force of contraction and heart rate, it increases the blood pressure. But when it produces peripheral vasodilatation, it will decrease the blood pressure. But mainly it produces peripheral vasoconstriction, so increases the peripheral resistance, and by increasing in the peripheral resistance, it will increase the blood pressure. So systolic blood pressure is elevated by increasing the force of contraction and increasing the cardiac output, but diastolic pressure is reduced because of vasodilatation. But norepinephrine will increase because of vasoconstrictor effects. So if there is a norepinephrine which is more secreted, you will have elevation of both systolic as well as diastolic. And usually during stress, there is excessive secretion of both catecholamines, adrenaline as well as noradrenaline. On respiration, adrenaline will produce increased rate and bronchodilation. On skin, adrenaline will produce increased sweating. Mainly this will be the action of adrenaline. On skeletal muscle, it will produce contraction, easy fatigue, and it will give rise to what we call as increased glycogenolysis and release of glucose into the blood, which will be utilized by peripheral tissue. And it also causes vasodilatation in skeletal muscles. On central nervous system, it will increase the brain activity. Person will be irritable, anxiety, tremors, etc. And that particular is because of adrenaline release. We call fight or flight reaction. So catecholamine is producing vasoconstriction in salivary gland, leading to mild salivary secretions increases little amount of lacrimal gland secretions, and also it releases ACTH, and that ACTH will act on an adrenal cortex and release catecholamines. Sorry, glucocorticoids. So catecholamine on salivary gland increases salivary secretions, sweat gland increases secretions, lacrimal gland also increases the tear. ACTH, it will be acting on a adrenal cortex and gives rise to glucocorticoid secretions which will increase the glucose level and further helps to utilize that glucose by peripheral tissue. So all this action is we see in a person during stress. On renin secretion, it increases the renin secretions, and by increasing the renin secretion, RAS system will be activated and you will have a production of increased production of aldosterone. As far as the pancreas is concerned, there will be increased production of a glucagon and insulin secretion will be inhibited. And this glucagon will stimulate liver and give rise to increased output of glucose, and that will further help in elevation of glucose. And in a muscle also, there will be increased glycogenolysis and increases the glucose output, and that's how the blood sugar level will be elevated. Usually dopamine secretion is not much, but whenever dopamine is being produced, it will give rise to vasoconstriction, dilatation in a mesenteric artery, and increases the heart rate and helps in elevation of blood pressure. Also, because of vasoconstrictor effect like norepinephrine, it will help in elevation of systolic blood pressure. On a kidney, it will produce vasodilatation. Thus, it will increase natriuresis by inhibiting sodium pump. And this will be one of the most important part while treating in a shock stage. So whenever you give a dopamine, there is a vasoconstriction by releasing norepinephrine. So dopamine will stimulate the release of norepinephrine. There will be vasodilatation of mesentery, so you don't get vasoconstriction of a abdominal arteries. There is an increase in the heart rate. There is increase, that's why there is increase in the blood pressure also. And dopamine does not affect the diastolic blood pressure. And deficiency of dopamine in the basal ganglia will produce Parkinsonism. So adrenal cortex will be produced mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, while adrenal medulla will be producing those epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. In a pheochromocytoma, which is a tumor of adrenal medulla, so there will be increased production of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and that will give rise to sudden shoot up of blood pressure and other signs like tremors, perspiration, tachycardia, palpitation, cardiac arrhythmias, etc. We'll be discussing in detail pheochromocytoma separately in a separate topic, but roughly 90% of the tumors are solitary, 10% are bilateral, 10% are extra-adrenal. Average size of those tumors are around 5 centimeter, and you will see 10% are malignant. We'll be using all these words in that particular lecture. So I end my lecture on adrenal medulla. I hope this will be very helpful to you because subsequent lecture will be on a pheochromocytoma.